Strange things. Cattle dying in Kansas from heat. Guess Kansas never got hot before. Cattle mutilations because E.T. feared it'd be cooled across the great expanse of the universe to tromp down the grass and castrate some cattle. Plans being made to vaccinate your cattle with the stuff that you won't let them stick in you. Bill Gates buying up farmland, same with the Red Chinese. Then a dairy barn explodes, killing 18,000 cows. That's about 125,000 gallons of milk a day. Considering that a cow will crank out more than 10 calves in a lifetime, that's at least 180,000 calves that won't be born, or 40,500,000 12-ounce steaks, all gone. Kinda strange. One might think the government had something to do with that, but they'd never do something like that, would they? Moose, guess what's for dinner?
Hello again, and welcome back to the Bruce Walden Show, the Bruce Walden Podcast, the show that dares to ask the question, can we just be honest? People are going to get their feelings hurt, and I honestly promise that's probably true. But we're going to talk about a few things. I was going to talk about human trafficking this week. We will be talking about that very soon. It is a thing that I won't say it's near and dear to my heart because, frankly, I find it irksome. But it's something that needs to be talked about honestly, because the people that we have in government, I don't believe they're being honest about it. In fact, I think they're the problem, at least in a very large part they are. However, we will go into it slightly later. We're not going to go into it too much today. I wish to be better prepared when I go into it. I've written books about it. I've written a couple of books, but the landscape changes so quickly in that regard. And I tell you what, folks, it outruns our imagination, and we have to be on top of it, and we're not even close right now. People say, well, the war on drugs has been a total flop. Okay, that may be. I contend we never actually joined that battle. Be that as it may, the war on human trafficking is something that we cannot afford to lose. There are thousands, millions held in chains, and many of them right here in Alaska. We'll go into that soon. I'm not avoiding it. I'm not afraid to go into it. But I don't want to go into it unprepared. If you have been trafficked, or you know someone who has been trafficked, or have kids or grandkids who have been trafficked, please contact me on Facebook. I'm easy to find, Bruce Walden on Facebook. Make sure it has this ugly mug on there, because there are a couple of other Bruce Waldens out there. In fact, there's another one here in Anchorage. Never met him yet. Hey, cuz. If you come at me with stories about tunnels that run between Alaska and the lower 48 or that run from coast to coast, that's a lie, and I will shut you down. When people do that, even if you believe what you're saying is true, you lose all credibility, and it's demonstrably false. Here's what happens. Somebody gives you a whole bunch of truth, throws in a little bitty lie, and they discredit you, and you repeat those lies without even giving it a second thought. But if you'd given it some common sense, some actual thought, you would have never believed it. But I won't give you time. I've not got time. You've been made to believe a lie, and I'll just shut you off. That's like when a woman accuses a man of rape when he hasn't raped her. Because what that does, it vilifies a man who was possibly innocent, and it also cheapens that so that women who have been raped, nobody takes them seriously. And you ladies that do that, you're the ones that are to blame for it when you lie about things like that. I think that men, or women for that matter, but men who rape and molest should be hung. I think they should be put to death. That's my thinking. That should be a death penalty crime. Because when you rape a woman or you rape a child, you've stolen their innocence. The person that was there before doesn't exist anymore. In effect, you've committed murder. But if you falsely accuse somebody of rape, it's like falsely accusing somebody of murder. So don't do it. And don't come up with ridiculous stories about tunnels that run from coast to coast. Again, can we just be honest? Let's assume such a tunnel did exist. Let's say that's 7 feet wide, 7 feet tall. So a couple of guys my height, and I'm 6'1", we're going to run down through there. If that thing was 2,000 miles long, you would have to remove 517,440,000 cubic feet of dirt. Now, how much dirt is that? For my Alaskans, let me ask you, right over here is Pioneer Peak. It's 6,500 feet tall, I think, something like that. If it was a perfect cone, the formula for a comb to figure out the volume of a comb is the radius times the height. That would mean Pioneer Peak would contain 21,125,000 cubic feet of dirt. Can you imagine how hard it would be to hide that much dirt? How about Mount McKinley if it were a perfect cone? That'd be 220,500,000 feet. And it's a lot bigger than that. It's a lot bigger than a perfect cone at the bottom, too. Everest is, if measured, Mount Everest, if it was measured from sea level to the tip top, and it were a perfect cone, would be 480,500,000 cubic feet. And that's not even as much as that tunnel. What they do with all that done is they put it in their pockets and dust it off like they did in that old war POW movie. Folks, how many of you thought that tunnel was a lie? How many of you thought it was true? How many of you bought that lie? You've got to use some common sense, folks. Like last week when we talked about the Capitol move, don't take everything they tell you as gospel fact, because half the time they lie to you. Is human trafficking going on up here? You better believe it is. Is it going on coast to coast and around this world? Yes, it is. I did a study in the book that I don't have it in here. It's called Angels and Chains. And I talked about that very thing. Did you know that about 1 out of, I think, 153 people living on the face of this planet are slaves to this very day? Think about that. When people tell you about what their ancestors had to go through with, what happened to them was unacceptable. But there's slavery going on right now. Any of you that believe that there's a vehicle tunnel running from coast to coast, from the east coast to the west, that allows trains and vehicles for transferring trafficked humans, folks, you're smarter than this. Act like it. You've got to get on board and think this thing through, folks. I'm begging you. Trust me, we'll discuss that a lot further a little bit down the track here a little bit. And to quickly revisit something I will go into in detail very soon, and we touch on it here a bit, the wokeness that is destroying our nation. Our military is what keeps us safe in America. When I was in the Army, leaders were expected to lead by example. Anybody recognize this guy? This is Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Milley. I see a Special Forces tab, Ranger tab, a Combat Divers badge, and a set of Master Wings, Master Blaster. It's a Master Parachutist. Those of us who are airborne call them Master Blasters. General Milley, my Russian friends will understand this, General Milley. I mean, sweetie, hey, sweetie. You're a disgusting fat body. You don't lead by example. You're pathetic. Why don't you resign? You're disgusting. You've destroyed our military. You don't lead by example. And if you do, you're a horrible example. When political officers like you lead our military under geniuses like Biden, it isn't any wonder that our military can't make mission. Nobody wants to have anything to do with you. My son got out of the Army because of people like you. But it is time that we begin saying some things very straightly. America, Alaska, you've been made to believe lies. So many lies. Remember what we talked about the Capitol move last week? How many of you poo-pooed that? Many of you can rightly say that this conspiracy theory or that conspiracy theory proved to be true. They proved to be fact. Yes, and herein lies the danger. Just because one proves to be true, that does not prove all of them to be true. That being said, be very, very careful which conspiracy theories you dismissed out of hand. You remember last year when they began asserting that there was a growing sand shortage around the planet? How many of you bought off on that? Have you ever flown across Australia? I have. How about Iraq, Jordan, places like that? I have. How about Saudi Arabia, the Gobi Desert, the Sahara? Have you ever flown across those? Apparently someone realized that the people simply weren't buying that lie. But they'll tell it again. And you will begin to believe it. Watch and see. Doubt me? Prove me wrong. If this generation doesn't buy it, the next one will. This is why they're dumbing down our education system so that you and I become complacent, pliable little fools. Proles, as they were called in the book 1984. Remember, a slave always believes what the master tells them. We're going to break here for just a moment, ladies and gentlemen, because there was a time when Anchorage was a wonderful city. And I think that maybe we need to take a break from being, before we get too emotional, and go back to a better time.
Wild, wild about Anchorage, nothing can change my mind. Wild, wild about Anchorage, it's a marvelous find. There's no place anywhere else that you could want to be. We're all together here singing in harmony. Oh, wild, wild. Wild, wild about Anchorage, wild about Anchorage.
If the people that put this cartoon together, if it is illegal, I don't think it is, because this is made for city government to promote the city. And anything that's made for the city or the country or the state is in public domain. But if you get your feelings hurt about this, let me know and I'll take it out and I'll re-release this video. But there was a time when we were wild about Anchorage. Does it strike anyone else odd that for the entire history of man, whether you are a Bible believer, as I am, or a Darwinist, that there were only two genders? They dig up ancient burials and find only male and female. Watch the awesome TV shows hosted by people like Bob Breyer and Sally Ekram. And they're all over YouTube. You can find them. And suddenly they go and they dig up these pharaohs and all these different mummies and stuff. They have never found anything but males and females. There was a pharaoh. I can't remember his name. I'll think of it in a little bit. It doesn't matter. He's one that Bob Breyer called the rebel pharaoh. He had saggy pecs. There are a couple of them like that, but they just were dudes that were out of shape. Did you ever read the book 1984? The TV show, they had a couple of movies that were based on the book, but read the book. Or do it like I did. I loaded up on my car and listened to it on the way back and forth to work because I have a 1 hour commute, so I read a lot of books there, listening to them. In the book, there were three countries. They were Oceania, Eurasia, and East Asia. Our hero, Winston, the hero of the book, he lived in and worked worked in the truth ministry for Oceania, whatever. Eurasia was the enemy and had always been the enemy. Then one day, Big Brother decided that East Asia was the enemy and had always been the enemy, or maybe it's the other way around. And it was so, because Big Brother said it was. If you argued or even thought of arguing with them, you're in a lot of hurt. The thought police would come around, take you, and there you are. Anything like that happening nowadays? If you dare to say men can't become pregnant, what? Or if you call somebody by the wrong, I got a surprise for you, folks. If I see you and I think you're a man, I'm going to call you a guy, and I'm going to call you he, him. If I see you and I think you're a woman, I'm going to call you she, her. I don't care if it hurts your feelings. Your feelings do not override my common sense. If you're a guy and you dress like a woman and I'm convinced you're a woman, I'm going to talk to you as if I'm talking to a woman. And you ladies, the same thing. And if that hurts your feelings, I don't care. I know a lady who, we got to be friends. She looks like a guy. She purposely looks like a guy, but she don't talk like a guy, and I immediately knew that she wasn't. And our interests were in something having nothing to do with any of that stuff, so we became friendly. I think we're friends. But if I think you're a woman, I'm going to address you so. And if you are dressing trying to look like a man, and I know you're a woman, I'm still going to call you ma'am. So deal with it. Society isn't bending to your rules anymore. You made up brand new rules. We're not going to play anymore. I didn't say we're getting tired of it. We're not playing anymore. You people in government, you better get this through your thick heads too. We're not playing anymore. Okay, let's be provocative. Let me state a few things very plainly. There are men and there are women. They're born boys and they're born girls. Period. The end. I've actually had people on Facebook that had the audacity to ask me this question. They wouldn't do it face to face, but challenging me to prove that scientifically. And I just wrote back and said, are you being serious right now? I guess they expected I'd just roll over. I didn't, and they did. Friends, when science became subordinated to politics, I knew it was over. 2 summers ago, I was in Soldotna, and I stood on the stage at the river down there and declared my candidacy for governor. Very shortly thereafter, that same stage hosted a drag queen show for the little kiddies in the park. City fathers and mothers, what were you thinking? Charlie Pierce and you folks on the Borough Assembly in the Kenai, what were you thinking when you allowed a satanic priestess to do the invocation at the assembly meeting? You're not innocent. The video can be found at the following https:// this is where your pad and paper comes in. So I'll say this slowly. https:// to you who are on camera. Yeah, that's this way. I used to get that backwards. www.youtube.com/watch lowercase v =, capital Y, capital N, as in November, capital J, capital F, the numeral 4, lowercase s, lowercase n, as in November, uppercase M, as in Mike, lowercase d, uppercase H, lowercase w. And I say that because I am not going to splice that in here and show you somebody. I'm not going to glorify somebody who worships the enemy of my God and the enemy of man. But you people in Kenai allowed that. If you were principled and unafraid, you'd have immediately gavelled out. You did not. We lost all respect for you. Mayor Pierce, who you're not mayor anybody anymore, but those of you on that council and whoever was in charge of that meeting, you have no credibility. Bruce, what were we supposed to do? What about the First Amendment? They have a right to worship. Folks, you're going to have to do better than that. Okay. Act like men and women. Why don't you try that? Why don't you act like adults and state we will have no prayer as part of this assembly? What about that? So, well, Bruce, we got to have. Well, you don't have to have, but you should. You should, really, really should. But those who will, why don't you do it this way? Say, okay, we're no longer going to have prayer here, but we will meet at such and such coffee shop over here, and we will pray. We're going to pray for the meeting. We're going to pray, not going to pray about specific things, because you're not allowed to meet off site and discuss anything having to do with the assembly meeting. That's not acceptable as far as particular items, anything like that. But you can pray over it, and all of you can meet, and you can invite the public to meet with you. But when you do it off campus like that, you say it very plainly, we will not allow satanic prayers in here. But we will pray as men and women of God off site. Why didn't you do that? Don't tell me you couldn't. You just didn't want to. In your desire to be loved and to be all-inclusive, you turned your back on God. Shame on you. It's no wonder that the Kenai is going to pot. I can't say too much about the folks around here either. There is no rule that says you can't do that. There are rules that prohibit the discussion of borough business outside of the meeting, and that's as it should be. That's the way it was for me when I was over here on the planning commission. But I can pray about it. I can sit down with everybody on the planning commission and say, you know what, we're not going to talk about the business, but we are going to pray that God would bless the meeting. What say you, Alaska State Senate? Huh? What say you when a priest of Odin comes in and gives an invocation, and some of you claiming Christianity stand there with heads bowed in reverence? Why did you not walk out like an adult Christian would do? I can name one senator who was there, whom I know, head bowed in reverence, but I won't until I can re-find the video so I can show it to you. It's been cleverly hidden. But Bruce, there's an excuse for my senator. He or she is a godly man, godly woman. And this was a trap. And in saying it, you back up everything that I've been saying on this podcast. You make an exception for your person when there is no exception. Folks, you're going to have to do better. You people in politics and in leadership positions, we demand that you do better. And this is one guy that will see to it that you lose your job. This podcast is catching on. People are paying attention to what we're saying. And I'm doing this just so that Joe Blow down here that runs the bakery has as good a chance at taking your job as those moneyed people that put you in. How about that? We've had enough of it. We've had enough of you. We're not taking it anymore. So how many genders are there? Genesis 1 and 27. I keep saying I'm not going to preach. Well, maybe I will. Genesis 1:27, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. Notice that it didn't say a blue million genders created he them. Male and female created he them. Well, what if I don't believe in God in the Bible, Bruce? Okay, first off, I hope you believe in science, because science says basically the exact same thing as the Word of God says. Frankly, I believe that when science is true science, it is the Word of God. If I see you walking off a cliff and I try to stop you, it doesn't matter one whit whether you believe the cliff's there or not. You walk off it, you're going to die. So Alaska, America, the entire planet, it's time to stop hiding and stand boldly. I didn't mean to preach, but if preaching's necessary, then we'll preach. What other lies are being pushed? As was implied by Sam Silliott at the first part of this blog. Would the government do anything to cut down the food supply, do you suppose? The food chain? Or the supply chain? What do you think? The food supply chain. Ships that anchored off of L.A. here a while back. Here during the scamdemic that just happened. I had a friend that was flying out of L.A., I think maybe San Francisco, but I'm pretty sure it is L.A., and he was counting ships sitting at anchor. He counted to 42 before he passed so far back that he couldn't look back and see them. 42. Sitting at anchor. Say, well, that's common. No, it's not. I've lost count of how many times I've been around the world, and I have never seen more than one or two in any port sitting out at sea waiting to come in. You've been lied to, but you believed it. How about these trains that are derailing left and right? Do you realize how very uncommon it is for a train to derail? And now we're having it happening left and right. And yes, we can blame Buttigieg for being a very, very, very pathetically poor transportation secretary, but it's more to it than even that, folks. And again, you're believing the lies. You're going to have to man up at some point, folks. They are purposely destroying the supply chain. They're purposely destroying the food supply. They're doing it in such a way that then the Chinese can swoop in and they're going to have all the answers. And again, you're falling for it left and right. How about the outright riots that took place over the last few years, and you had people like CNN calling them, well, they were mostly peaceful, while right behind them there are buildings on fire. Ladies and gentlemen, I pause for A&W that has that frosty mug taste. That's not an endorsement by A&W, but I do have a scratchy throat. You had rioters burning the country down, murdering people, beating the living snot out of people, old people. And it was mostly peaceful. Well, I had a few heart attacks. They were mostly non-deadly. I'm still alive. But people die from heart attacks all the time. How about the Supreme Court justices being basically attacked and threatened with murder and rape of their wives and their children, huh? How about police stations where people threw quick dry cement in front of the door and then set the place on fire? We're living in a different age, ladies and gentlemen. And for you people in government, I'm telling you, and this isn't a threat, this is an astute observation. The people are getting tired of it. They're fed up. How about this, the new big thing, the egg shortage? I've got eggs. I've got a friend right here locally that raises eggs, and she makes sure we've got eggs. But those of you that believe the government, well, I guess we'll just have to learn to live without eggs. Are you beginning to catch on that the government is lying to you like a bunch of yellow dogs? Are you catching on yet? They want your guns so they can have total control over you. But let me be really, really provocative here. You are not getting our guns. You're not getting them. Don't push it. When the feds come for our guns, Governor Dunleavy, will you do the usual routine and say, well, I can't do anything about it? Or will you at least do like Parnell did and say, we don't recognize your authority. Get out of our state or I'll put the cuffs on you. How about it? 5 years ago, I was running for borough mayor right here in the Matsu. And I advocated and still advocate for a sheriff's department. And you know what? The sheriff answers to the people and to the Constitution. Not some do-nothing governor. They answer to you. And when somebody's breaking the law, I don't care who it is in government or whatever, they can put the cuffs on them. Moreover, if need be, they can deputize all of us. I saw one woman, she got so mad that I was advocating for a sheriff's department because that's going to cost us money, Bruce. You could have lit a cigarette off her head. It was as red as this table I'm talking at. Bottom line, folks, yeah, feds, you aren't getting our guns. All those same people that poo-pooed me when I said we needed a sheriff's department, guess what they're saying now? Well, I guess we do need a sheriff's department. He's like, yeah, I was telling you that 5 years ago, but I'm not one of your darlings. I'm not a party darling. I'm not one of the pretty boys in the party. Again, that's why we got this blog going. So the non-pretty boys and the non-pretty girls and the non-moneyed people have as good a chance as any Sullivan has. Or any of you other moneyed people out there. I sound like I'm being bitter about people with money. I would love to make a lot of money. All of us would. But you people are keeping us from doing it. Say, Bruce, you're just whining. No, I've seen it. I see how you people operate. To the Bidens and the Harrises out there, and to your handlers, Obama, Xi, we're wise to you. Governor Dunleavy, you'd better man up and get on board. When we see this, now the Navy has a drag queen that is representing them, maybe not officially, but they're using this guy. And they wonder why they can't make mission. All the branches are wondering, why can't we make mission? Maybe space making mission, because they only have about 9,000 people. I got a cousin who's actually one of them. I'm very proud of her and her husband. What say you, mayors, especially you, mayor and city council of Anchorage, that Hooverville that's growing just as you roll into Mountain View, and that one that's growing where the old Native Hospital used to be, it's growing every day. Every day it grows more and more and more. Every day I stop in there and take pictures of it. You're not doing anything. You sit there and you blame one another, and you do nothing. Here's something that I've learned over the years. Whatever starts in L.A. and San Francisco goes north and it goes east. Whatever starts in New York City goes south and it goes west. I remember when I first got to Fort Lewis back in the days. I remember when Seattle was full of proud Northwesterners. And in fact, the whole state of Washington, although they weren't necessarily conservative, they were rugged individualists. Now we see, I was down there not too long ago. It was back in 2017, so 6 years ago. I used to, when I was in the Army, right during the second half of my career, I would do my soldier job during the week, and when I was not deployed, I'd work as a security guard downtown Seattle a lot. And you'd see some kind of freaky people sometimes, every now and then. Yeah, every day you'd see a few. I went there in 2017, and I was so appalled by it. The whole downtown area was like one gigantic drag show. People, we've become Sodom and Gomorrah, and we are begging God for a blast of friendly fire. Colorado is now saying that capitalism harms kids and harms kids' education. Folks, you had better pay attention to what's going on in this country of ours. Now, I'm going to say something here, and I want you to hear me out. And all you people in government, all you people that are in the intelligence community and the police that are starting to catch on to this podcast, and you say, we better keep an eye on this guy. No, you don't. You're not going to find a more motivated, more patriotic American than the guy standing in front of you, or sitting in front of you, as it were. I do not advocate for civil war. I do not. And I've told people, I've had a lot of people around here say, we need a civil war. And I always ask them, have you ever been to war? No. So you need to shut up because you don't know what you're asking for. Because let me tell you something. Those of us who have been to war over there, we've not seen war like a civil war would be here. Because there's a civil war. Let me tell you what happens in civil war, folks. Because I've seen them, not here. I've seen civil war. What happens for about the first 6 months, you have reprisals. Everybody that you ever angered will come after you. Because when it hits the fan and there's bullets flying in all directions, there's no referee. And everybody, it's time for payback. So those of you morons out there begging for civil war, you better shut up and sit down. But if it comes to that, God forbid, you'd better stand up like men and women and not run away like 99% of you will. Because I've known people like you, and I've known people like you when there were bullets flying and people dying. But what the government needs to get through their thick heads, especially you people in local and state government, well, I won't say especially because the people in the federal government should know it too. The people are getting very sick and tired of being pushed around. We're getting tired of being pushed back into a corner. I listened to Mike Gallagher and Glenn Beck in the morning on my way to work. And they're my entertainment on the way to work. And I was listening to Mike Gallagher, I believe it was yesterday, and he said, there will be pushback. The people have had enough. If you don't believe that, you are begging for what's happening, what's about to happen. You sit there and you watched. I'm talking to the people in government. You sit there and watched as our cities burn down. You sit there and watch, you people in government here in Alaska, when your cities are being overrun by the homeless. And since they closed the Sullivan, I guess they've got it closed now. The homelessness issue has just blossomed. Say, well, I know, Bruce, and shame on these, but no, shame on you, because you're not doing your job. Say, Bruce, do you know the answer? Yeah, I do. I know what the answer is. The answer is you sit down with your people and say, we're going to fix this. Oh, it isn't that simple, Bruce. Yes, it is. You're just too lazy and no account to do your jobs. My heart goes out to that soul that was killed yesterday on that subway, or day before, whenever it was. My heart goes out to any soul that goes out into eternity unprepared. Now, I don't know if this guy was or not, but if you're going around threatening to kill people, my guess is you're not exactly a saint. And some motivated Marine, he improvised, adapted, and overcame, and he overcame that guy with a chokehold, which is just a submission hold, and unfortunately the guy died. I'm not happy that he died. I'm happy that he's out of commission. And now they're vilifying that Marine and trying to make him out to be the devil himself. People, we're going to have to do better than this. You people in government that saw that happen, and those of you who are vilifying that Marine, the shame is on you, not on him. He was protecting people, unlike you clowns. But what he showed, and what you're not getting through your heads, is that the people have had enough. You're not doing the job, so the people are starting to do it for you. Here, you people that want to break the law and get away with it, here's how to avoid getting in trouble. Don't break the law. Don't threaten people. Because I'm going to tell you right now, we're not backing up anymore. I pity the guy's soul. I do not sympathize with his issue. When I was a soldier, we had some little feral kittens in our neighborhood. And I thought if I could catch one of those and bring it in the house and let it get used to us, it could be a good pet for my daughter. My oldest daughter was only about 3 at the time, 2 or 3. So I set up a neat little box trap of my own design, and I caught me a kitten. And I knew it was wild, so I put on some leather army, like engineer gloves, so it couldn't hurt me. Reached in there, got it, tossed it inside the house, and waited for it to get used to us. Friends, it didn't get used to us. It got and this is a tiny little kitten. Boy, it started zipping around the house. Zoom, 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 zoom. Wound up on the curtain. Its ears laid back, its claws out. And I said, you know what? The best place for that cat is somewhere besides inside my house. So I opened up the door and waited for it to leave, which thankfully it did. There's a point to this. If you take the American citizen, the law-abiding American citizen is very, very slow to anger. But you keep pushing us into a corner. You keep pushing us. You're asking for trouble. You take the law-abiding conservative that all he wants to do is go to work, feed his family, take him to church, see his kids educated, and be left alone. And you keep pushing him, and you keep pushing him, and you keep pushing him into a corner. He's going to be just like that cat. Sooner or later, he's coming out, and the claws are coming out. That is not a threat. That is an astute observation. That is where we are right now. Folks, you people in government, you had better wake up. If I sat here and laid out each and every little thing that's going on throughout our world that you're being lied about, for instance, I heard them this morning, the climate crisis. We're in a climate crisis. I'm going to talk to somebody, I think in my next podcast, we're going to talk about climate change. And we're going to use some common sense. You people, well, the science says, no, it don't. Obama stood up there, well, the science has been settled. This is settled. There is global warming. You're a liar, Obama. You're a liar. Biden, you're a liar. All the rest of you that are trying to push that agenda, you're liars. Ladies and gentlemen, let me explain to you why they're doing that, because they want to kill American industry. They want to kill Western civilization's industry. But I'm going to save that one for another day, because I've got a very special presentation that I'll put together on that. Something I want to talk about that's going on right now is House Bill 3. As I address you right now, it's the 5th of May, 5/5/23. There's something in our state house. It's called HB 3. I think it was sponsored by Kevin McCabe, but if not, then I know he's one of the supporters. It's in committee right now, and we're demanding that they move it out of committee. But HB 3 allows Alaska to have gold and silver as currency. Imagine that. And Mrs. McCabe, Lynn McCabe, she showed pictures of one of the other states that has these really neat, they're actually bills that are made from gold, little sheets with illustrations on them. It's time, folks. The dollar isn't going to last. They're trying to push you into cyber currency. Are you going to fall for it? If you do, remember this. Remember what Revelation 13 and 18 said? That you wouldn't be able to buy or sell, or was it, 13:18, I believe. You wouldn't be able to buy, sell, or trade without you receive a mark in your right hand or in your forehead. Remember? That's where you're being pushed to right now. That time will come. I don't think that it's our place as Christians to just roll over for it. You're better than what you're doing right now, folks. Grow up and act like it. May God bless you, and may He bless this glorious state of ours. Before I go, to all you guys out there, I'm going to do something here at the end that I don't usually do. And that is, I'm going to do a little, it's a life hack that I just happened onto. If you like having a nice close shave, as I like to have a nice close shave, stick around. I got a little trick for you. I think you're going to dig this. Ladies and gentlemen, join us next week, and we will probably be talking about the environmental overkill in this country. We may change it. If some things happen that I'm trying to get together, we will be talking about human trafficking, because to me, that's of utmost and immediate importance. Because as I speak to you right now, there are Alaskans in chains. There are Alaskans being bought and sold right now, especially our native ladies being bought and sold. And you allow it. Mr. Governor, here a couple of years ago, you said, well, Bruce, maybe this is something that we need to look into. Well, Bruce, maybe this is something blah, 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 blah. You haven't done anything. You know that show, Alaska Daily? I like to think that it is a matter of great minds thinking alike. But if any of you who have read my newspaper that I put out a couple of summers ago, very closely mirrors what we were saying. Especially the interview that I did with you, Mr. Governor, and I still have the recording in case you deny anything that you said, that I see you said in that paper. We have seen nothing out of you. We've seen focus groups. We've seen task force. We've seen zero action, sir. What goes on between your ears? Ladies and gentlemen, am I being mean? Am I being mean? No, I'm telling you the truth. And it's time. It's time for some truth. May God bless you. May He bless this glorious state of ours. And we'll catch you very soon. Good night. Hi, I'm Bruce, and I don't really do these self-help videos or anything, but I just had an idea I thought I would share with you gentlemen out there. If you're like me, you like a nice close shave, you got a couple of options. You can do like my dad used to do, and what I used to do at the old little brush, soap, old soap, whatever. That works. But the trick is you got to get the lather good and hot to really soften up the whiskers so that you can cut them loose. And the other option is you use foam. Use shaving cream, shaving foam, whatever. And you either have to, if you want it hot, you've got to put it under running hot water, or you can get one of those useless little doodads they used to sell. You can find them on eBay because nobody really makes them anymore. You rip the top of this thing off, you put them on there, and those work great for about a month. Then they always quit. And I said, you know, I need something. I need something that when I get up in the morning, because I get up at 5:10 every morning, and I want my shaving cream nice and hot and ready to go when I get up in the morning. So I had an idea. I have a coffee maker. It's a Mr. Coffee, and any of them will do, I imagine, if they've got the little preset where you can set them what time you want them to kick on and start making your coffee in the morning. I said, why don't I do that with my shaving cream? So I bought a Mr. Coffee for about 30 bucks, and I'll show you what I did with it. I think you'll dig this. Okay, so a couple of things that you need. You're going to need a decent drill, and this is my little, what do we got here? A skill drill made by Skill Saw, and you're going to need one of these guys. It says most durable hole dozer. I don't even know what this thing's called, but I know you use it for cutting holes for doorknobs and stuff like that. And you're going to need the coffee maker of your choice. Like I said, I've got the Mr. Coffee. It's this guy right here. And what you do, open that guy up, remove the basket from it. All right. And I'm doing this because typically I use Barbasol, but they have others like different gels that have taller cans. So this hole is too small for that can to stick out of. So, okay, let's see how badly we can destroy this thing. So you take that and you just find the hole. And I've never done one of these before, so let's see how bad I can break a wrist or something. Simple enough. And I took the lid to my to the gel thing that I was going to make the hole big enough for. I took that down to the builder supply store to make sure it would fit, and presto, there it is. So I got a hole that's the right size. And then it's a simple matter, setting your clock on here. Let's see, the time right now is 2:31, so go to 2:31 in the afternoon. Incidentally, I've got another one of these in the kitchen that does my coffee every morning. It does such a good job That's why I decided I'd go with this brand. So there it is. Now, I typically get up at 5:10. I want my shaving cream nice and hot by the time I get up in the morning. So I set it to 3 in the morning. 1, 2, and 3. Boom, done. Now, with this coffee maker, you just punch that guy twice and there it's set. Otherwise, do this, hit it again, it's turned off. But you set this in here and you're set, you're good to go. That water will not get hot enough to cause that can to blow, all right? But let's say you got, like I do, sometimes I use the gel. I kind of mix this stuff up to, you know, have a little bit of variation in there. If you do so, as you can see, I'm going to have to clean that out. They got a lot of plastic particles, but that just sits right in there. Perfect. So in the morning, all I have to do is grab this guy out of here, and I am off and running with a nice shave. Yep, hope that'll do you some good. Now that coffee maker cost me about the same as those shaving cream heaters that you buy. They used to have, they tried to sell them on the net, and they tried to sell them on they did sell a lot of them. They suckered me in. Don't buy those things. Those things cost about the same as this coffee maker, and this thing's not going to stop. Yeah, I might have to replace this every 2 or 3 years. Those things, they give out after a month. That's why they stopped selling, because they just, nobody could make one that worked well. They either get plugged up or they just quit working. So, hope that'll do you some good. I'm planning on using this for a good long time.